Revelation chapter 2. God starts giving the messages to the 7 churches here. The first one is the city of Ephesus. We know that Ephesus provided a great harbor in Asia Minor. It had 4 great trade routes that went through Ephesus. So this city was called the gateway to Asia. It was the place where one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world was built, the temple of the goddess Diana. We know that Paul ministered there for 3 years. Also Timothy and Tychicus and the Apostle John all served there. This church was warned about leaving its first love. They had great doctrine, they had zeal for the truth, but none of that can replace a passion and a love for Christ. And God warns them, I can remove your lampstand for this. His judgment can bring an end to that Ephesian church. But he did commend them. You do hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans that I also hate. These Nicolaitans were teaching a heresy similar to the teaching of Balaam. It involved immorality, a lot of sensual temptations, a life of self-indulgence. It was like the teaching of Balaam into immorality and wickedness, same as at Pergamum. The next church was Smyrna, and this was called the crown of Asia back then. The modern city is Izmir, Turkey. This was called the most beautiful city in Asia Minor. It was a center of science and medicine. It also had a large Jewish community that God said, these people, they say they're Jews. They have a physical descent to be Jewish, but their heart isn't a heart for God. They attempted to stamp out the Christian faith and put to death Christians. So he calls their synagogue a synagogue of Satan. When they rejected the Messiah, Judaism became a tool of Satan just as much as the emperor worship of the day. But there is a promise to those who overcome, and by this definition, that is everyone who is a Christian. The second death would not hurt them. It says in this chapter, the first death is only physical, but the second death is a spiritual and eternal death that lasts forever. The next church is the church of Pergamus, which literally means citadel. It is the modern city of Pergamum. It was built on a 1,000-foot hill in a big plain by the Aegean Sea, 20 miles inland from the Aegean Sea. It was the capital of the Roman province of Asia Minor for over 250 years, and it was an important center for a lot of pagan cults. It was the capital of the cult of Caesar worship. It also was the headquarters of satanic opposition and a Gentile base for false religions. The god of healing is the one most associated with Pergamus, and that snake-like form is still the medical symbol today. They had a lot of superstition mingled with their early medicine. One prescription they had would call for worshipers to sleep on the temple floor and allow snakes to crawl all over their body, and they thought this would infuse that person with healing power. So a lot of falsehoods that had to be overcome there. They are promised a beautiful thing here. The overcomer there is promised hidden manna and a white stone. When an athlete won in the games in these days, he was often given, as a part of his prize, a white stone. This was an admission pass to the winner's celebration afterwards. And how cool if this pictures the moment when the overcomer gets his ticket to the eternal victory celebration in heaven. That's a beautiful thought. We wonder exactly what that means. And a new name. How beautiful that God has a name for you that no one else knows. Like a pet name, a special name just for you. That's an awesome thing. And then the city of Thyatira. This city was located in a long valley with no natural defenses. It had a long history of being destroyed and rebuilt. It was little more than a military outpost to guard Pergamus. We know from Acts chapter 16 that Lydia came on business to this city, and she was converted under Paul's ministry there. We see in this overcomers here that they were promised the morning star. How beautiful. John later reveals Christ to be the bright and morning star. And even though he's already dawned in our hearts, like it says in 2 Peter chapter 1, someday we will have the morning star in all his fullness. Revelation chapter 2. To the angel of the church in Ephesus write, These are the words of him who holds the 7 stars in his right hand and walks among the 7 golden lampstands. I know your deeds, your hard work, and your perseverance. I know that you cannot tolerate wicked men, that you have tested those who claim to be apostles but are not, and have found them false. You have persevered and have endured hardships for my name, and have not grown weary. Yet I hold this against you. You have forsaken your first love. Remember the height from which you have fallen. Repent and do the things you did at first. If you do not repent, I will come to you and remove your lampstand from its place. But you have this in your favor. You hate the practices of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. To the angel of the church in Smyrna write, These are the words of him who is the first and the last, who died and came to life again. I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Do not be afraid of what you are about to suffer. I tell you, the devil will put some of you in prison to test you, and you will suffer persecution for 10 days. Be faithful even to the point of death, and I will give you the crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes will not be hurt at all by the second death. To the angel of the church in Pergamum write, These are the words of him who has the sharp double-edged sword. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. Yet you remain true to my name. You did not renounce your faith in me, even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who was put to death in your city where Satan lives. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. You have people there who hold to the teaching of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin by eating food sacrificed to idols and by committing sexual immorality. Likewise, you also have those who hold to the teaching of the Nicolaitans. Repent, therefore, otherwise I will soon come to you and will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give him a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to him who receives it. To the angel of the church in Thyatira write, These are the words of the Son of God, whose eyes are like blazing fire, and whose feet are like burnished bronze. I know your deeds, your love and faith, your service and perseverance, and that you are now doing more than you did at first. Nevertheless, I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophetess. By her teaching, she misleads my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. I have given her time to repent of her immorality, but she is unwilling. So I will cast her on a bed of suffering, and I will make those who commit adultery with her suffer intensely, unless they repent of her ways. I will strike her children dead. Then all the churches will know that I am he who searches hearts and minds, and I will repay each of you according to your deeds. Now I say to the rest of you in Thyatira, to you who do not hold to her teaching, and have not learned Satan's so-called deep secrets, I will not impose any other burden on you. Only hold on to what you have until I come. To him who overcomes and does my will to the end, I will give authority over the nations. He will rule them with an iron scepter. He will dash them to pieces like pottery. Just as I have received authority from my Father, I will also give him the morning star. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches.